Why is SoftBank doing this with WeWork, do you think? Is this an existential sort of moment for them? Are they at risk of this investment taking them under?
Yeah, I think this is a real crisis for SoftBank right now. I honestly think the story of the past few years is obviously Uber is a huge high point or low point, and WeWork is just a total nightmare right now in how they valued the company, how they financed the company. But I really think it's SoftBank, right? Like this huge vision fund of more than $100 billion came sort of flooding into the valley all at once, giving companies that arguably probably shouldn't have been propped up a whole lot more runway and a longer time to survive. And there's VCs out here who say, look, this is really distorting the economics of how the valley should work. And the companies that are supposed to die out are not dying out because they have so much money coming back into it. So I think SoftBank, there's a really humbling moment for SoftBank, as it should be, and now they're just trying to save their investment any way they can.
Cameron, channeling my financial Malcolm X here, feels like chickens coming home to roost, perhaps, for SoftBank. Is this healthy, though, for the market? Because arguably, at least at this point, it's contained to SoftBank and WeWork and I guess the landlords involved. It's not the broader market, and it could have been.
Yeah, and I think this is a case where you have a major investor with their flagship deal coming in to make sure that they save their investment, and people are looking at the valuation. It might be $8-9 billion now versus 47. The 47 was in some ways a false number because it's an agreement between two parties. It's private. It's not the market as a whole, supply and demand, saying the company is worth that amount. So certainly, I think if this happens and the company is still solvent and goes forward, it's great for the market and great for actually all the other startups that are in the kind of real estate and on-demand space.
Given how expensive it is obviously turning out to be to unwind voting structures like this one, can we safely say now that that pendulum has swung as far as it's going to swing?
I think so, and I think my colleague Alan Patrick's been saying this now for weeks and months, that the dual class voting structure, the excessive power put in just a small handful of employees or CEOs is probably going to swing the other way now.
Mike, that's going to be, we'll see what SoftBank thinks about that.
Well, I mean, I've been beating this drum honestly since Uber. I honestly thought the peak of it was Uber, you guys and I were here 2 years ago, talking about the ouster of Travis Kalanick, the guy who had insanely onerous terms and deep control of the company, and yet we don't seem to learn from that, right? So I just sort of wonder, part of the game has really been keep the founders happy so we can invest in the company, and now I do wonder if that pendulum has swung the other way, but at the same time, maybe we'll be back in 2 years ousting another founder and sort of marveling at how horrible things are. So who knows?
And Mike, what is the lesson here for employees, for investors? I mean, if you look at Travis Kalanick, if you look at Adam Neumann, these founders seem to have made out just great if this goes through as expected. Adam Neumann walking away with another $1 billion plus, while the company appears to crumble. The WeWork employees, meanwhile, thought they were in for a great thing just a few weeks ago. Now they're questioning what they're in for.
No, totally. I really do think this era of the cult around founders and this founder worship is coming to an end right now. Travis was, again, I thought the high point. I think Neumann really exemplifies this too. And I think maybe, earlier on with, let's say, the Sergeys and Larrys and Zuckerbergs of the world, there was a point to following people that had this true vision. And now you have at least people like Neumann, who seem like total hucksters, kind of really in it for themselves, getting $185 million consulting fees for essentially winding down the company and laying off a bunch of employees, which is really just a horrible joke and awful for all the employees involved. So is the lesson, are these people learning a lesson, or is he going to go right off into the sunset and invest in another round of companies? Who knows? I don't know. Maybe it's the end point is like, LOL, nothing matters.
Yeah. Well, we also want to get both of your takes on Facebook ahead of Mark Zuckerberg's testimony tomorrow on Capitol Hill. You've also got Facebook announcing new election security measures yesterday. And Cameron, they talked about some steps that they've taken to get inauthentic voices off of the platform, even showed some of what these folks have been posting, kind of pretending they're locals when they're really not, and a whole range of political messages trying to inflame everybody and everything. Is this significant, you think, that Facebook has taken these steps? Have they shown enough that they're serious this time around, or is it too little too late?
I mean, I think there's certainly going to be a heavy amount of scrutiny and suspicion put on Facebook regardless of what they do because of what's turned out from the 2016 situation. And then since then, sort of their somewhat defensive and cavalier approach to consumer data and privacy where they've said, oh, no, we're on top of it, don't worry. But there's still kind of, again, suspicion there on the part of both consumers and regulators. So, it's not too little too late, but I think these are steps in the right direction. And the big thing is, Facebook is an ad-supported platform. Election years are massive boons for ad-supported platforms because they get, because the campaigns put so much money in. So, look, the easiest thing to do would be say, hey, look, we're taking no political ads. I mean, they would take a huge hit, obviously, to their revenue.
Zuckerberg says it wouldn't be that much.
Yeah, they could survive. So if that's the case, just say no to all political ads and remove that from your system. And then, you at least eliminate part of the problem here.
I wonder what that would do to engagement, Mike, if users knew that I wouldn't see any. I don't know. Maybe some would
be better,
find it.
Wouldn't it?
Some might see it as a draw. Some might say, I'm not going to learn as much about politics.
I mean, part of the dilemma, I think, for Facebook is that the most engaging content on the platform seems to be the most inflammatory and insane stuff, right? And so I think you can make an argument that it would be hard for them to sort of say let's tamp it down. I do think, to be fair to the company, 3 years ago they had no idea any of this stuff was going on and weren't even looking for it actively. And now they've had so much heat from Washington, from the press, from users. Now they can't afford to be caught off guard in 2020. So I do think they're sort of swinging, again, the other way in a very huge degree. They have 35,000 people working on security. That said, we don't know what we don't know, so who knows what sort of weird manipulation is going to come around the 2020 election.
Mike, we do want to congratulate you on the development of your Showtime series based on your book. Are we going to be able to book you from here on out, or we got to talk to your people?
Look, it's Hollywood Mike now, right? Just get in touch with my people. No, of course not. You guys are great. Thank you so much for always having me.